Well, do we do the whole introducing thing?
I mean, if you guys want. I don't. My name's Cole. I'm 26 years old.
Give us a fun fact.
Or where you're
I eat 6 bananas a day.
Oh,
my
gosh.
gosh.
And it's so
That's
true.
that's my fun fact.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it is pretty weird. People think that I do that because it's just like, I'm trying to be healthy, but I genuinely just love bananas. And they're a better snack than what most people snack on. Like, you guys probably eat chips and stuff.
No, we don't.
What do you snack on?
Popcorn.
Okay.
Well, I don't even
Case in
really
point.
snack. That's my thing.
Yeah, I don't
really...
snack either.
Whatever.
I don't
Save
really
up for the
snack.
meals.
Whatever.
Big meal.
BB?
My name is BB. I'm 24 years old, just turned 24. I'm an intern here at Guts Church. Fun fact, I'm the oldest of 7, and we're all a year apart. So
crazy.
Yeah, I've always lived a chaotic life, and I feel like I know how to be composed in chaos. Yeah.
Cool. I'm Reed. I'm 23, about to be 24. I think I'm the youngest. I'm younger than you. Yeah, I'm the youngest one here. Nice.
What's fun about you other than your haircut right now?
My haircut's pretty fun. I don't know. Sierra asked me a while ago what my fun fact was, and I said my fun fact is that I don't have a fun fact. So
He was an All-American
not
his
fun.
freshman year.
That's literally
okay.
He was an All-American his freshman year.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
I played
fun.
soccer at ORU, and then my other fun fact is that this is my wife, the host.
wow.
Yeah.
How long have you guys been married for?
7 months.
7 months, but been together.
Probably close to 3.
Yeah, 3
3
years.
You
something.
better figure that out quick.
Yeah. Ready to go.
Yeah.
That's funny.
My name's Lindsay Barry. My fun fact is I'm the oldest of 6.
How old are
and
you?
my youngest brother is 5.
Wow.
So
How old are you?
he's just 5. 24.
24.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my fun fact. We love older siblings around here.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
You have a 5-year-old
Brother.
brother?
He's the best thing in the world.
Huh.
He's like my child. I
Oh,
love him so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Okay, can you give us a fun fact about him? Does he play any sports? What is he into?
Yeah, he loves football
Yeah.
because my brothers play football. So actually this past weekend I was home and he literally was in the backyard. My brother's a kicker. He would have me tee off and say, "Now kicking for the night, Lincoln, Arizona." And he like does the little wave like my little brother does, like practice kicks a few times and then kicks it and then like takes his helmet off, slams it on the ground like it's the cutest thing ever.
Aw.
He's the best.
That's awesome.
That's adorable.
But
What'd
yeah.
you guys think about service last night? We're talking about blind spots.
Blind spots
This is the
today.
last
Yeah.
not episode, but last part of the series, I guess, and before we go into, so we've been in changing lanes, and yeah, last night, I feel like Sheldon, Elder Sheldon Dillingham he didn't allude to blind spots all that much, but I think the general message was around blind spots. So I mean, did anything jump out at you last night? Anything that he said? Anything interesting?
Yeah. There was one part, and I think it was, and I told Lindsay about it yesterday, and he said the first part, and then I kind of added the end of, I call it an equation, but he said preparation before pressure, like leads to peace and being able to, navigate things. And I just simplified it. Preparation before pressure equals peace. And I think that is like, it's so cool to hear from like someone in that stage of life because, they've obviously been through things and,
Yeah.
we've been through some, but we're not as seasoned as they are. And I think that a lot of times we overcomplicate the word. And I think sometimes it's as simple as this plus this equals this, and that's how you need to live your life. So I think that was something that stood out to me. I actually told Lindsay about it on the way home yesterday.
Preparation, what is it?
Preparation before pressure equals peace.
Before pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if you don't have time to be prepared before the pressure hits?
It's not an excuse.
Not an excuse. You
No.
can't make excuses.
Daily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's so true about like we complicate the word.
Yeah.
What I love about Guts is we take like our motto is like we take God at His word. Like if His word says it, then that's what it is. And unfortunately, or the enemy's tactics are trying to come in and make things more complicated than they need to be.
Yeah.
If the word says you're healed, then you're healed.
Right.
So that's good. But I also think about, okay, if we don't have time to prepare, like, how do we handle the pressure? How do we still have the peace amidst the pressure without the time of preparation? That's something that's interesting to consider to me. But I like that formula.
I think that's just being led by the Spirit.
Yeah.
They go hand in hand, you know what I'm saying? Which, I mean, when I think of preparation, I think of being in the Word, waking up, being around the right people. Like, there's a lot of things that go into that equation. It's not just like...
And everybody's preparation looks different,
Yeah.
I think is the main theme here.
Yeah.
I may have to read, 10 more chapters a day than Cole to be as prepared as Cole, but
Yeah.
it may be switched. Or I may just need to pray one day and not necessarily, reading isn't necessarily going to do the trick that
Totally.
day. So I think, finding what preparation works for you
Yeah.
and knowing, hey, every single day I need to do this and I need to do that. And those things are going to lead me to a peaceful life. It's going to allow me to be steadfast, immovable in anything that comes my way.
Yeah.
And that's as simple as that. Like, I think, find what works for you and pursue it.
Right.
Go after it with everything you got. But if
Yeah.
you're going after it, half-hearted,
Yeah.
when the pressure does come, you may not be as prepared as you need to be. And I
Right.
think that's where the disconnect could be.
Well, and I think like getting systems in place, right? And that's kind of what you're alluding to, is like on a daily basis, what are you doing to position yourself in a place of peace? And it's kind of a fine line, because we don't want to suggest that there's like a checklist of things that we need to do in order to like get peace.
Yeah.
But then again, it's like, for especially our age people, there's a lot of people that are just like freely doing whatever they want, and like there's no system to their life, and they're waking up, they're sleeping in, and then they're eating what they want, and they're playing video. I mean, whatever young people are doing right now. But there is a little bit of a system to
Hey,
it.
you're
It's
not that old.
Huh?
You're not that old.
What? I'm
You're
not
still
that old?
young.
I don't play video games. So.
Reed does.
I mean, what do you play?
NCAA, baby.
Oh, okay, that's fun. Or like golf or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so there is a system to like getting in the Word and being, in community and having uplifting conversations with the right people, and iron sharpens iron and all that. But it's also like, don't want anybody to think that it's like this strict formula where it's like, okay, if I
Yeah.
do this,
Right.
this, and this, I get peace. Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like finding that balance.
I mean, Pastor Bill always says it's simple. Like, he's always like, I'm in the simplifying business.
Yeah.
Because, he's like, I live by the Word, and what the Word says I do, and it's that easy,
Mm-hmm.
So I think overcomplicating it is just in your own mind,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Putting
would say,
restrictions on
like,
yourself.
sorry,
No, you're not.
preparation also isn't having all the answers. And it's like, okay, like, let's say I'm going in to a business meeting, there's a certain goal, and like having all the answers to that. Preparation is, okay, what have I done to be in the presence of the Lord? Because ultimately, we are going to be caught by surprise, But the Lord, He is the beginning, the end. Like, He's never caught by surprise by whatever we're going through. So it's also like being humble and admitting that, oh yeah, like I don't have all the answers. I don't necessarily know. We're hoping for an outcome, and of course, if there's a promise, then we stand on that promise. But it's like, what I'm doing to prepare is just being in His presence, because He has all the answers. He
Right.
is my strength. He has the wisdom for me. So preparation is not also getting in the mindset of, okay, like if A and B happen, then I can't go to C, or I have to pivot to D.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
it's not doing all that, because that can also stop us from taking that step of faith when we're all up in our head, just trying to prep and think of, okay, like what is this outcome going to be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. He said last night, every decision the Spirit leads us to produces freedom now and in the future. He's always leading us to freedom, which I thought was so good. I mean, I knew people in the room that needed to hear that last night.
Yeah.
Like, I was telling Reed on the way home, like these certain people came to my mind, and I was like, that word was for them, like 1,000%.
Right.
Which is so crazy how that works. Like, a new situation, something that literally just happened. They just so happen to come to service, and it's like, boom, the word is for them. But what does that mean to y'all, being like, just making a decision now? How? Let me rephrase this. What is a decision that y'all have made recently that's like led to freedom that you've noticed in your life?
Nothing's jumping at me. Can you read that?
Yeah, read that whole.
Every decision the Spirit leads us to produces freedom now and in the future. He is always leading us to freedom.
I would say, I mean, like I mentioned, I'm an intern, and so me and Cole both joined in July, so it's been fairly recent. We're about to hit 6 months. I never thought I was going to do the internship. I was like, they would put the ads on it. It looked very hardcore, very rough, very, oh no, like that couldn't be me. I'm a pretty disciplined person, an organized person as is, so I thought I was okay with that. And then the Lord put it on my heart to join the internship. I battled with it for a week, saying like, no, I just graduated college, I have this job, I have this business idea, I was actually looking at a place for my own self, like I have these plans for myself, and being in the internship is not that plan at all. Of course, all those questions were really just doubts and fears of like, okay, Lord, if I give you my life, if I give you this year, how are you going to back my play? I didn't even know that being full-time, they, provide housing for you. And so I was out here worried about how am I going to pay for my rent, not knowing that when I said yes, the Lord was going to already provide that. But and it's tricky because being in the internship is so wild, because you find out where your blind spots are. Being in the internship, it's very spiritual, very mental, very physical. And so you're constantly every day being pushed, being, like almost hitting that wall. And it's like, oh, like, why did I react that way? Why did I react in fear? Why did I react in anger? Why did I, respond that way? Why didn't I take charge of that certain situation? So, but in that pressing, the Lord is showing me where I might be falling short, but he's also showing me, okay, like we have to deal with this. And it's that refining, like the Lord, puts us in a refining moment. He has to, put pressure on us so that he can purify us. So that's almost the tricky part about freedom, is that you have to understand where your blind spot is, where you are being held bondage by something, something in the past, by a thought that you have. So freedom is actually, it's tough. Like you really have to work for it. It's not something that, oh yeah, like I'm free now. It's something that you have to work through, and it's very pressing. It takes pressure to, have that breakthrough and receive that freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's been given to us. So it's like we can just we have the privilege of operating from a place of freedom. I think when it comes to like decisions and that lead to freedom, like making the decision to do the internship, really any decision that's a big decision, that this Holy Spirit is probably leading us in. Yeah. Like I would say 10 times out of 10 feels very uncomfortable to our flesh. Usually doesn't make sense. Usually your flesh is going to try and talk you out of it, figure out reasons that you shouldn't do it, or it's not a great idea, or you'll start to get fearful or doubtful about, okay, what is the next? And I did the same thing with the internship. It was like, okay, I've worked in a job for 2 years. I have a salary. Why would I quit my job to go spend time at the church and be an intern? I mean, it's like none of it made sense, but there's been so much revelation on the back end of it, and none of that made sense to my flesh, but this, like, I felt a tug by the Spirit, by my spirit man. And so if you're mature enough in your walk with Christ, and your position with Christ to be sensitive to the Spirit, and you're making decisions based upon where the Spirit's pulling you, it's going to be the right decision. You've got to make the jump and make the decision to say yes to that, and then just watch how the Lord will back your play on the back end. And that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So there's ultimate, like, it almost feels like maybe for that period of decision making time, you're like, I felt like I was kind of in bondage, like I was tied up.
Yeah.
But once the decision's made and you release that to the Lord, it's like, okay, then there's freedom.
Yeah.
So that, I don't know if that kind of alludes to what you were
No,
asking,
I mean,
but
yeah, 1,000%. And I think it's so cool because, like Reed said earlier, it's not a legit equation, but it kind of is, you know. And we can go through the same situations over and over again, but we still act the same. So that's like, thank God His word is the same, no
Yeah.
matter what. Because
Yeah.
like, there's so many situations in my life that I've been through, like the same situation with family things, like over and over and over again. And it's like I have to go back to that place of like reminding myself, okay, these are the promises. This is what I'm standing on.
Yeah.
We already have the victory over this. We already have the authority. We're walking in freedom, you know,
Yeah.
all those things because, you know, blind spots
Yeah.
are real and you don't, every time, bro, every time. Sounds like a spaceship is taking off.
what the
I
heck?
think, were you and LT talking about this last time? I think you were. But the hardest thing is like when you have that check in your spirit where you have that tug and it's like, I know I probably need to make this decision because I'm feeling led to.
Yeah.
The hardest thing is getting your flesh and like actually getting that out of
To
your mouth
align-
and being
align
like,
with
let's
that.
go, like I'm
Yeah.
ready. And I think that is like, once you figure that out, I mean, you're golden because
Yeah.
like you don't have any resistance to it, but it's a natural thing.
Yeah.
So being able to overcome that is something that is,
It's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult. And I don't think that's something that you can ever like, I don't think you'll ever get to a point where that's easy
Yeah.
because then you wouldn't be operating from a place of faith. Like if your flesh is telling you no, but the spirit's telling you yes, you have to be like, you have to take a step of faith to like get there. And it's always sacrificing. I mean, there's things right now that I know I need to like lay down or move away from that I still haven't because I'm just being reluctant to it.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure all of you guys do too.
Yeah.
And so, you know, yeah, it's a constant thing. And I think as we evolve and as we become more mature in our walk with Christ, those steps of faith will probably get bigger and bigger and the consequences will be bigger and bigger as well. But we'll have the capacity to do that because we've done it. Like you said, it's a cycle.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well now I know I've been here before. I know that I'm sensitive to the Spirit. I know what direction the Spirit's trying to pull me in. Now it's like, okay, just how quick can I get my flesh on board and like die to myself?
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah. It's so true, which is why it's so important to be around the right people.
Yeah.
I feel like we kind of always circle back to that no matter what we're talking about.
We're talking about
But
the
it's-
same thing.
But it's just because it's so true. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just, you know, you couldn't.
I mean, it
do
is.
by
I mean,
yourself.
that's all it is because if you're by yourself, you're going to talk yourself out of it.
Yeah.
And if there's other people that are seeing that you're being stagnant or they see that you probably need to do something that you're not doing, like that's going to be encouraged and like pulled out of you quicker. And that's just,
Yeah.
I mean, we circle back to the same things because we keep it simple and because there's only really, I mean, it's just how it works. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's so true. Another thing that he said last night was temptation always shows up in the form of a decision contrary to the kingdom's way of doing things, which obviously, like, we all know what temptation is. Like, you don't have to, like, I don't have to tell y'all,
Yeah.
but I think that's such a cool way of putting it because I feel like it really simplifies it because I feel like so many times, like, when I think blind spots, I think of things like that, like temptation or I don't know, just things that you know you're not supposed to be doing. It can be small, it can be big, it doesn't matter, like everything in between.
Yeah.
And it's like putting it to that simple of a level is like,
Yeah.
again, it's very freeing and it's like, okay, well, I already have the victory over this.
Yeah.
What's something that y'all feel is a blind spot that you've learned to recognize and how have you recognized it?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I was going to hit on, before we got into that, the cool thing about the temptation being like coming in the form of a decision that's from the flesh. I think I might have just butchered that, but
Yeah, it's fine.
on the right track.
Yeah, that's fun.
Is one of the first things that I heard from Pastor Bill when I got here. I was kind of dealing with, just being in the world, just drinking, partying, smoking, just not being around the right people, doing the wrong things all the time. was he said that temptation's not a sin, but
Yeah.
acting on that
Yeah.
temptation is. And I think that it's cool to hear it from temptation as a decision, because it's, like Lindsay said, it's as simple as that, to where it's like, man, I might be tempted to go do this, but if I don't make the decision to actively go do it,
It's
it
fine.
doesn't, like, it's fine.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not, I did nothing wrong there as long as I don't act on that decision.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a really cool way of putting it, and I actually didn't catch that last night. I just heard that right
Yeah.
now. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that's pretty good.
Pastor Bill always talks about, temptation is not a sin, and it makes sense once you go back to the Old Testament and you understand like how sin entered the world, and that we were all born with like a sinful nature.
Yeah.
And so I think in the past, like I've fallen prey to like identifying with some of the temptations that I've had, and like allowing that to take, like making, like I'll feel shameful or guilty about some of my temptations. And it's like, I now realize that I am by like just coming in the world, I have a sinful nature. And so I don't know, that just kind of helps me. Like, I don't know where I was going with that. I lost it there.
That's good. And I think
I was going somewhere.
It's probably good.
it'll come back to you.
Yeah.
I think that the enemy would love nothing more for us to, like you said, identify with that temptation, because ultimately it was not our fault. It was, temptation is really just his influence.
Yeah.
So it's almost like he wants to make you responsible for his influence.
it's so true.
And
That's
it's
good.
so damaging. And this church was the first, when Pastor Bill said that, he says it all the time, temptation is not a sin. I was like, wow, like it's not, like, and you look back, and it tells us in the Bible, like Jesus was tempted just as us, and that's
Yeah.
what makes him relatable. That's what makes him
Be able to empathize and- yeah.
exactly. So yeah, don't fall into the lie that you are your temptations, or temptation is your fault. Like, don't take credit for the enemy's influence. That's not you. And of course, Jesus has provided, no temptation has come upon us that the Lord won't provide an exit for. And I would say, whenever I do, have temptations to either say something or act something, immediately, as soon as I recognize it, I just start speaking the word, like
Yeah.
whatever it is, or I even just start speaking like, okay, like, temptation is not a sin. I am not temptation. The Lord has provided a way out for me and stuff. So yeah, you are going to be tempted. Like Cole said, we have a sinful nature, but do not claim that temptation. That temptation is not you, and don't feel shame for that.
Yeah. Not feeling shame is so good, because I feel like that is a place that a lot of Christians live all the time, which is, I talk about this, I feel a lot, especially like with my siblings, like when we talk about certain things that our family has gone through, I'm like, the devil always wants to keep you in a place of shame, because it's isolating.
Yeah.
And it causes you to be by yourself. You don't want to talk to people. You don't want to be around people. You don't want to like be honest with people about
Yeah.
what you're going through, because it's like automatically the devil lies to you, and he's like, that's embarrassing. Why would you tell that? I can't
And
believe
you're the
dealing
only
with
person
that.
experiencing
Yes,
this.
Yeah.
Right.
exactly. And so I think that's so good that, there's a way out. There always
Yeah,
is,
there is.
and you're already set free from it.
Yeah.
Do you have anything, William?
I said my piece.
No, you did.
I kind of started this.
Well,
huh?
it just all goes back to, and I would think that's where I was going with that last piece, is it's just about our identity. Like we were in the world, and we have the influence of the world around us, but we're now adopted into the sonship of Jesus Christ. And so if we can truly understand like our identity in Christ, and that he died for our sins, and that we now live in the same righteousness as Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's insane to
Yeah.
consider.
Yeah.
Like there's no place for shame or guilt, because even though I have temptations, even though I have these thoughts and these desires that come out of my heart, that I'm like, do you guys ever feel that way, where it's like, why did I just think that? Or
Yeah.
like, it's like, what in the world? Well, it's okay. Now I understand that, like, okay, this is not like, my new nature is that I'm hidden in Christ Jesus. Like I'm a believer. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I know, like, what you said about, sometimes you think thoughts and you're like, oh my goodness, like, it's clearly not from the Lord. That's clearly not
Clearly not
a
from the
right
Lord.
thought to have.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, our flesh is super reactive, but the spirit, it's patient,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would say, when you are facing that stuff, like, again, like, it's okay, like, our flesh, that is in our nature. If someone looks at you wrong, immediately be like, oh, like, what the heck is her problem?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think about yourself, et cetera, et cetera. But no, like you meditate on it. You're like, oh, you know what? Like maybe she's having a bad day. Like maybe me noticing that is actually the Spirit trying to be like, hey, like clearly she needs someone to connect with, whatever it is. But yeah, I remember that the flesh is super reactive. It's quick, but it's okay. Like let yourself think through that. Let the Spirit reveal what it needs to reveal, because the Spirit is patient and it takes a little bit more time.
Yeah. No,
good.
it really does. Being patient is hard. For sure.
Very hard.
Something that he said last night that he didn't even have on his notes, but I wrote down because I thought it was so cool. I think it was when he was reading in Luke. But he said, Jesus spoke to the Spirit behind the words, which I thought was so cool, because when I think about blind spots, and I think we've talked about this like a little bit before, but I said that when I identify my own blind spots in my own life, it's like through generationally, because I've had a lot happen in my family, and just that's the way that my mom raised me, is to recognize generational things from a very young age.
That's good.
And so when I would think about blind spots, like that's what would come to my mind. And growing up, she would tell me, you have to learn how to separate the spirit from the person. And I had to learn that at a very early age, like, which is, like, I feel like a very good lesson to learn. And so when he said that, I was like, that immediately reminded me of that. But I thought it was so cool because he said Jesus' response to that situation was combating it with words again. So he didn't combat it internally. He spoke to the situation. He spoke to the Spirit. He spoke the word over it, or, he is the word. So,
Right.
whatever. But I just thought that was so cool. And,
how does the separating the spirit and the person, what do you mean by that? Like how were you taught that?
okay, I don't want to how do I explain this?
Break it down.
Break it down.
Break it
So
down.
essentially, I think that a lot of people growing up, we start right now. We all have things that we've dealt with, right? We're in a place of where we're talking about blind spots. Some people don't recognize their blind spots, and in 50 years from now, it's running their life because they didn't take authority over it.
Right.
And so at that point, it's an active spirit in their life.
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A spirit of fear, a spirit of bitterness, a spirit, whatever it may be. And my mom just there were situations that I went through in high school that were really hard for me with my family. And my mom would tell me you have to learn how to separate the spirit from the person, because you have to realize it's not about you.
Yeah.
And their response to you is not about you. And yeah, does that make any sense?
Yeah, and their response is not it's not them either. It's like you're saying it's more spirit. It's like everything is spiritual.
Yeah.
Which is probably hard for a lot of young people to listen to and be like,
Yeah.
oh, those are just churchy people.
Exactly.
But I mean, that's what Pastor Sandy says it all the time. Everything is spiritual, and so that's what you mean. It's whenever someone, let's just say, to be real simple, a girl is being mean to you in high school, it's you're separating and saying, okay, this is not the girl. I'm not going to be angry at this person.
Yeah.
But recognizing that there's a spirit at work.
Yeah.
And the spiritual realm that we can't see, that is operating to try and sow
division.
discord.
Yeah.
And separate, and because that's what the enemy wants to do, is to get in between people and God's will and His kingdom. And so that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's hard to do because, like you said, our flesh is quick to jump to things, and so it's okay, you got to take a step back, be patient, and separate those things and not be quick to act or think or whatever. So
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Which is hard.
That's really hard.
Yeah. And I feel like you just have to live in a place of being unoffendable. Is that right?
Yeah.
The right word?
Yeah.
Which Anne always talks about that. She is the most unoffendable person I've ever met in my life.
Which I like to hang out with those people because it's more fun.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
She does not get upset about anything. Even things that our friend group has gone through, situations. I'll talk to Anne. I'm like, you weren't upset? And she's like, I mean, no. I know X,
Yeah.
Y, and Z. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's just crazy the level of I don't even know, unoffendableness
Yeah.
that she operates in. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I feel that it's not everything is about me, not everything is personal, because I feel the devil loves to be oh, it's because you're X, Y, and Z, they don't like you, or
Yeah.
you're not good enough, and it always wants to bring it back to you and what's wrong with you, and it's no,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm who the word says I am. This is
Yeah.
not about me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to choose hate over the situation. I'm going to speak life over the situation, over the person, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So
The more unoffendable you are, the more secure you are in your identity.
yeah, it's so true.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
just the bottom line, because if you're taking offense, I mean, and we all have opportunities to take offense every single day.
Yeah.
If you're taking offense, then you're not like you're basically, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing that he talked about last night was that Jesus paid the price no matter the cost.
Mm-hmm.
And that sometimes, walking into freedom and all that comes at a price.
Yeah.
Talking about how he died on the cross. And something that he said, whatever way was inside of the kingdom was the way that he would go regardless of the cost. And then BB, these are her notes because I thought these were for me and I took them. It says, she wrote down, look forward to the joy of the call. What is a situation that there was a huge sacrifice or just a sacrifice you didn't want to make attached to? And how did you get through that? Does that make sense? Did I phrase that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Read. I mean, yeah.
Like asking for a situation that you kind of took a step of faith in, you sacrificed something, and like you've kind of reaped the benefits on the other side of it. I don't know. I feel like I've had life pretty easy for the most part. It's just me being a dummy. So
Yeah.
But something that probably my biggest step of faith that I had to take was when I started coming to Guts, like my freshman, sophomore year of college. When I would go back home, when I was in Tulsa at Guts, I was doing all the right things. I was around all the right people. It was super easy. And then when you're in college, obviously you go home for Christmas break for a month. You go home for summer break for 3 months. You go home for Thanksgiving, all that stuff. What's that one called? Fall break, spring break, all those breaks. We don't get those anymore. But you go home, and when you're separated from the environment that you're in here, it's super difficult to, what are you laughing at? It's super difficult to walk out the same exact things. And I think the biggest step of faith that I had to make was, okay, all these friends, all these people that I hang out with, I'm not talking to them anymore. I'm giving them up. And that was the hardest thing for me because I kept 2 friends because they were the real ones from day one.
Yeah.
And they weren't necessarily the ones that were bad influence. They were just kind of riding along with me.
Yeah.
Which is also super cool because one of the benefits that I've seen on the other side of it is I've led those guys to the Lord.
Yeah.
And so now they're walking out, they're plugged in at their local church there. And so it's just man, you make those small decisions to not talk to somebody anymore, to not purposefully go hang out, and then you get questioned at the time, and it's do you not like us? Did we do anything wrong? What's the deal here? And I'm no, I just chose a different path.
Yeah.
And it's something that is super difficult to make a decision on at the time, but now looking back on it, all my friends' lives are changed. Most of them, if not all of them, some of them are still being hooligans, but most of them, they've come to know Jesus. They are dating somebody that has the same values as them now. They're not being tempted on a daily basis by other friends because they have the right people around them.
Yeah.
I wish they were here, but they're not. But I think that was the biggest step of faith that I've had to make. And the benefits,
You see the fruit of that.
the harvest of it has been, awesome. And so now I can go home and be comfortable because I don't feel like, this person and this person's going to hit me up. What am I going to say? So, yeah.
And I feel like it's something that never really stops either. Do you know what I'm saying? You see the fruit of it constantly. Even at our wedding, his cousin, after our rehearsal dinner, came up to me and was like, so I know you're really busy, you're about to go on your honeymoon, but when you get back, could we talk? Because I've never heard people talk about the Bible or the word like this before. And it literally, I was at our wedding, which is so, I guess it's not random because we had Andrew, Andrew spoke and Ann spoke. And, Andrew, he's Mr.
And
Preacher.
Bush just dropped a hammer on him.
Yeah. And so anyways, but it's just so cool that it's that one little decision, if you wouldn't have chose to change your life, we would not be getting married.
Yeah.
She would not be hearing the word like that spoken. Her life wouldn't be changed. Your friend's life. It's so much bigger than you. It's actually crazy.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
insane.
and I think also even when you make those decisions, like when you're on the other side of it, you have to continue to walk that out, because
Yeah.
the second that you decide that you're not going to walk that out anymore, everybody's going to call you out on it, and they're going to think that everything that you did up to this point was a lie or for no good, because that's how the world thinks. And I think that, like, you know, obviously you're going to slip up. You're not going to be perfect, but like you have to strive to be on your game. You got to be in the Word. You got to be on it every single day, because there's people watching you, whether you like it or not. And I think that that's the biggest thing that I've kind of realized is, man, I can't take a day off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Straight up.
That's good. Yeah.
I mean, I would talk about the whole internship thing again. I've talked about that in the last 2 podcasts, just the decision and the sacrifice, and then the fruit on the back end that I'm sure you've experienced as a result of making a decision, and I know I am and will continue to. But kind of like Reed's saying, just it's not even necessarily always the big decisions. It's like the little things. It's like there's days that I get out of bed and I don't necessarily feel like reading the Word. I don't necessarily feel like coming to church. I don't feel like being in a good mood, or like I just don't. Like,
That's
you know what I'm
real.
saying?
Reed feels that on a personal
that's
level.
real, bro. Every morning.
Like I just don't want to interact. I don't want to like engage. I don't want to talk to people. But I mean, and then it's just it's like a consistent, okay, I've got to understand that this is not my life is not about me.
Yeah.
And so if I'm truly living this, if I'm truly a Christian, quote unquote, like I've no longer lived for myself, and you know, it's I have to allow the Lord to work and have His will through me, and so I have to choose to be in a good mood and make those decisions, because otherwise I'm not getting up, and the kingdom is not being advanced. Like it's my duty to advance the kingdom every single day, like in the capacity that I'm able to and that the Lord has allowed me to, like. And so if I selfishly wake up and just decide, oh, you know, it's cold and rainy, and you know, it's December and I'm getting ready for Christmas, and so I just feel like kind of just taking it easy, and well, that's selfish, and you know, you got to be better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Love
It's true though, and it only takes like one time.
yeah.
You know?
Yes.
Like, I haven't always been on staff here. We haven't always been like as high level plugged in as we are now. Like, obviously, well, he kind of was. Like, he jumped in, whatever. But,
All in, baby.
All in.
Yeah, but I think it's like, again, you really have to be so intentional, and you have to be so on your game, like you said, because it would take one Sunday to be like, oh, I'm tired, like, I want to sleep in.
Yeah.
And then it's like, ooh, I kind of like my Sunday. It's
Yeah.
kind of nice, like just
Kinda
sleeping
nice
in,
to-
like,
yeah.
you know. So
Oh,
you really
yeah.
have to be on it and be able to recognize, you know, the little things.
But it's so much better living that way. Like, and
Yeah.
I thought like even with Sunday, like we show up at the church every Sunday at 7:30, 7:45, and that was one of my biggest hangups, like with committing to the internship, because I was like, I like give up my Saturday nights because I got to be in bed early, to get up early, to get to church, and I'm not leaving church. You know, I'm there from 7:30 to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's like, oh my gosh. But it's like, it's so much, like, yes, that's a sacrifice, but my experience of just being in the house and like the fruit of it and the connection and just the energy, and even if I'm tired and I didn't sleep a lot, it's like there's still this grace that you're able to operate in. That's just so, and it like, and I was talking to somebody about this last night at service. It's like, yeah, you might physically be sleepy, but your spirit is being energized. And so that's what carries me. It's like, yes, I need sleep, but also like if my spirit man is energized, I can now leave church and go do whatever I need to do outside of church and be great at it because I've been energized for it. So, I don't know. It's just a perspective thing. And it's once again, circling back to just killing your flesh and like allowing the Lord to do His work.
Yeah. No, it's so true. That's so good.
Where are we at? We're about 9:45. You guys want to hit on anything else?
Let's look through these. Okay, last question. So, how do we make peace-filled decisions? This is something that he asked last night, and he followed up with Colossians 3:15, and he said, "And let the peace of God rule in your hearts, to which also you were called in one body, and be thankful." And then he said, "We confirm every decision through the word." But what is something that y'all do to make peaceful decisions?
I think my biggest thing, it's not necessarily something that I do, but he kind of said it last night. If there's any drop of confusion or question in there, not making it.
Yeah.
Like, not, like, non-negotiable. And Lindsay and I kind of have walked out some of that before is, like, our number one thing in our marriage and our lives has been follow your peace. If it's not peaceful, don't go. And I think that, you know, we constantly remind each other about that. So
Yeah.
it's been fun. But I think my biggest thing for that is just, man, if you have those questions, then it's probably not right. And then Sheldon said it yesterday. I think he had like a question on like a business deal or something, and he held off on it. And then when they come back a week later and that actually comes to fruition, it's 10 times better than what it was when he would have originally made the decision to do it. So I think also, like, if you have that, if you don't have peace about it and you don't make that decision, don't be like, man, that opportunity just slipped away from me. Because if you're supposed to have that opportunity, you're going to have that
Yeah.
opportunity. Like,
Yeah.
that is yours.
Yeah.
Like, there's no question about that. And so it's just a matter of time of positioning yourself, prepping yourself for when that opportunity comes back. Are you going to be ready?
Right.
Because the opportunity may have been right, but you may not have been ready for it.
Yeah.
And so I think looking at yourself and finding your blind spots, wow, this actually ties in really good, but finding your blind spots as well as the opportunities blind spots and kind of figuring out what needs to be tinkered with before the next time it comes around, so that way you and the opportunity are both ready, so that way it's ready to go.
Yeah.
I think that's, I mean, it's as simple as if you're confused, you have questions, it's not peaceful.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, and it's a like we've talked about, it's really separating flesh and spirit, because if, like for Sheldon's example, making the decision for the business at that time probably would have been what his flesh wanted to do.
Yeah.
And what seemed right. So like, even if you have a check in your spirit and you don't do it, there's still going to be an opportunity for your flesh to be like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, and so it's such a, and I know I'm trying to figure a way to communicate this effectively, because I'm trying to think of who's listening to this and like flesh and spirit and like, oh my gosh, it's so, but I think, yeah, once you have a relationship with Jesus, you will understand the spiritual realm and understand how that dynamic works. But truthfully, it's like something, it's like a check in your spirit. So like, it's just following, which like, I don't know how to even explain that, but
Yeah. I mean, you just feel like you're not supposed to move forward with it.
yeah, it's not,
Like
it's no
Pastor Bill, how he
peace.
talked about his truck, like I think it was like 2 months ago maybe.
Yeah.
But he was saying that he had the money, he had everything, the perfect one, like, and he just couldn't find his peace with it.
Yeah.
And I was
It-
like,
it
that's so
looks
interesting.
good.
And he was like, I didn't feel weird. I just couldn't find my peace. And we just got in the truck and left.
Okay.
You know, and I'm like, oh, wow, that's like refreshing to hear, because it's like in every little thing.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, that he operates in a place of peace to where, you know, he had everything he needed for it.
Yeah.
He was like, I don't have a peace about it. I'm going to leave, you know?
Right.
Even like me and Reed, he's buying me a car so bad. And I love my Jeep. Okay, I have a little Jeep Patriot 2016. Like, it's my baby. I love it. It's ranky dank. Okay, it's like got some issues, but I
toxic
love
garbage.
it. And every time we talk about cars, I'm like, Reed, I just don't know. Like, I just don't feel like we're ready. Like, and that's the perfect way to put it. I just don't feel like at peace
Yeah.
that we need a new car yet. I just don't.
Yeah.
You know? And
Yeah.
that's a simple, and it's like in the little things, like you need peace just as much as you do in the huge situations, like deciding who you're going to marry, or like, you know, all the things.
Yeah.
I would say too, I think when you've walked with the Lord a little longer, you just know that his peace is so distinctful. Like, you can just know, like, okay, yeah, like this is his peace on it. But at the beginning, you might be questioning, like, oh, like, is this, you know, is this a gut feeling? Is this just me? Is this the Lord? So I would say, advice I would give is, don't be afraid to go with him with your questions. Like, he would much rather prefer you to go with him, like, questioning, than for you to try to figure out yourself.
Yeah.
Or go, hopefully you have godly counsel, but if you're starting, maybe you don't have godly counsel. So he would much rather prefer you to go to him with your questions. And yeah, that's what I would also say is, like, when you know the peace of God, it is so distinct.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, when I was, again, deciding, when I was battling for a week to join the internship or not, I was just like Cole said, like you felt like a weight, like there was literally felt like there was a bondage on me. And I was so sick and tired of it finally after like the 5th day. I'm like, I'm going for a prayer walk. So I put on my worship music and I was just like, I just told the Lord, I'm like, Lord, I'm scared. I'm scared that if I do this, you're not going to provide for me. And that's almost like, whoa, you know, but you know, and he like told me like, oh my gosh, like you're my daughter. Like I love you. Like I want you to, you know, have housing. I want you to be fed. I want you to know that like this is going to be an amazing opportunity for you. But after saying that, like I felt so much relief. I was just honest with him. He is not afraid of your questions. He already knows that you're questioning, you know, he already knows what type of mindset you're operating out of. So just be honest with him. That's really all that he wants. And I remember like once I let that out, like I could literally physically feel like his peace fall on me. The peace is a very distinctful feeling because he's so distinct. Like our peace comes from him, and there's nothing else in this world that is ever going to come even close to what Jesus Christ gave us. So I would say don't be afraid. Like it's okay. Like question him. You know, like he's not going to shame you for it at all.
Yeah, you'll never be left in the dark.
Yeah.
Like, and even if you are for a period of time, like there will be revelation as to what, like, why did I have to experience, like, why did I go through that little season of like feeling that turmoil or whatever. So that was good.
It's good. Anything else?
Kind of hitting on what you just said, and I may be butchering this, but Bush one time, and I kind of was just reading old stuff yesterday from like when SUB30 started to see if anything kind of popped out at me. And he said, politeness kills the demand. And I thought,
him, bro.
I thought that was like,
Politeness kills the demand.
Yeah, like when that message was probably preached, I was probably just figuring everything out. Like probably had read the Bible 5-6 times in my life. Since I've, come out of it. When I was young, I read the Bible, but I thought that was like so cool. And like in your situation, man, you could have been, please do this, please. No, God says put a demand on it. Like ask me, tell me what you need. Like if you want it, you have it. You have the authority. Tell me what you want. Tell me what you need. And I think that like exactly what you did there. Like you went out. You said, okay, I'm taking this to him. Like, I'm scared you're not going to provide for me. Like, and then he's like, I'm going to provide. And he answers quicker than if you're like, will you please provide for me in this situation? Like, there's, like, hammer him. Like, he wants you to, like, be real with him.
Just be real.
Yeah. It's that simple. The way you would the way I would talk to Cole if I had an issue with Cole, that's the same way you got to talk to God.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest things with Pastor Bill is he's transparent. The same way that he talks to me, same way he talks to you, to you, like that's how he responds and that's how he acts in every situation. So,
that's good.
Yeah. Anyway, drop that gem for you guys.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's once again we just make it way too complicated, and I think as and when I was younger, when we were all younger, we thought that like being a Christian and being spiritual and God was this like huge like. It's like, and once you realize that it really is, it's like, this is the truth and God is real and God created us and he created the world and you have a relationship with him. Like you talk to him normal. Like it's not this weird, like I'm going to go in my room and light a candle and get on my knees and like,
talk to him while you're driving, man.
Yeah. And it's real I mean, it's just, don't be weird.
Yeah.
Don't be weird. Yeah.
I don't know, man.
So true. All right. Well, amazing.
Thanks, guys. Love you.
Episode
Come
3.
to SUB30.
Yeah, come to SUB30, 8 p.m. Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
Come talk to us.
Yep. We're cool.
Find the red badge.
Yeah, literally.
All right.
Great.
See ya.
Adios.
See ya.